In today's episode, I'm going to discuss how the City of Austin handled 4 code cases for the property you see highlighted in yellow. This is the interstate, IH-35 over here. This is east of it. These 4 pieces of property are owned by the local transit authority, Capital Metro. This area here was overgrown, had a couple of transient camps in it. This area in here had a bunch of things dumped into it. You can see the dump trucks here. This is metal salvage yards here. This area here had become a dump site for people scrapping out salvage and was overgrown and had a bunch of trash and debris in it. So I turned it in. Now, Capital Metro is a business partner of the City of Austin, and I was interested to see how the city would treat this property. And so I turned it in. And this is what I turned in. This is a copy of the 311 report. Everything was done via the internet, so there was no mistake on what I told an operator. Everything was typed in. In this, in the section right here, I described Capital Metropolitan lots between 4th and 5th and IH-35 frontage road to Waller Street have become overgrown lots that are used as dump sites and homeless camps. The proper addresses are, and then I list the addresses for all 4. I gave the Travis County Appraisal District account numbers for the properties, and then I stated on the southern portion of at 901 East 5th Street, there's a large area of trash consisting of ceramic disc, electrical conductors, rubber insulators, and just trash that appears to have been dumped on this site. All of these lots are just north of several metal recycling centers, and the majority of the trash and debris appears to be associated with some stripping and cleaning of recyclable material to get a better price. As you walk along these lots, you will find homeless camps in the tall grass and weeds, even dump trucks on these lots. On the eastmost lot, 1101 East 5th Street near Waller Street, there's a large pile of dirt and broken concrete. It's part of a culvert that has been dumped on this lot. Is there any chance that you can send an inspector out to get these things cleaned up? Okay, this was turned in on April the 5th at 8:47 a.m. So these 4 things were divided into 2 different inspectors. And so here is what the code case log looks like. This is the complaint for 800 East 4th Street. You see they give the proper legal description. They identify Capital Metropolitan Transit Authority as the owner. The complaint date was received by code on April the 17th. Only thing they wrote in the complaint was garbage, rubbish, accumulated grass and weeds over 12 inches tall. All of the information about the stripping of metal and the ceramic things was removed from the thing. So Troy Collins was assigned this case on April the 17th. A month later, it was transferred to Deric Knox on May 15th. But yet, when you look at the body of the case log, Deric Knox logs in on 4/28. Again, he wasn't assigned until May 15th. He's not assigned the case, yet he writes that he conducted an inspection of the area on 4/24/15. This is about a week after the fact. And he didn't observe any violations at the site. He made that comment, and then on the May the 18th, after he's been assigned, he closes the case and said no violations are found. Okay, the next one, basically the same thing, except they didn't list Capital Metro as the property owner. But they did get the legal description correct. Grass and weeds, again the 17th, transferred on the 14th, but yet on the 24th, the other one said the 28th. On the 24th, he conducted an inspection of the property, misspelled the word found. The old Pine Street station, which was an old train station. This property is owned by Capital Metro, but yet he failed to put Capital Metro here. According to TCAT, upon my arrival, I did not observe any of the items listed or any rubbish, trash, or debris on site. Any of the items listed. So perhaps he got that, but he failed to put that in the report. Okay? So he just closed the case. The fourth one done by Mr. Knox, again, the same thing. Complaint date of the 17th. Collins was assigned on the 27th. So look at this. April 17th. Collins isn't assigned until the 27th. Transferred to Knox on May 14th. But on April 24th, before Collins is even assigned, again, it's the same just cut and paste statement as before. And then Deric Knox comes in on the 18th and just closes the case. So this is just a bunch of red flags. How is it that Deric Knox isn't assigned till May, but yet he's conducting an investigation on April 24th? He actually says this property is Austin Metal and Steel. He misspells the word steel. Of course, they're all the best trained they are in the state, right, Carl?
Yeah, our inspectors are some of the best trained, actually, as far as code enforcement officers in the state.
I got a copy of the case logs, which I just showed you, and I also got a copy of the photographs taken by the inspector. Now, there was two different inspectors, but we're going to concentrate on Deric Knox. And so these dots here represent the photos taking where about the guy is standing and the direction that he's looking. So he takes a series of 22 photos here, but he's taking photos of the scrapyard. He's not taking photos of this over here. He took a couple over this way. He stood here and took a couple of wide shots, but he failed to go over here and investigate the area that I had turned in. The same's true for over here. He's taking photos of all around the interstate, of the south side of the building, a couple along the railroad tracks, but he doesn't take any photos of this area here. Now again, my complaint was all about the south side of these lots, not this parking lot over here, which by the way has no site plan or anything else, but it's Capital Metro. It's a business partner of the city, and this area here there was a site plan development for, but of course not here. So you can see over here they take a few photos along the railroad tracks, find trash and debris over here, and then they just close their case. So when you look at these photos, it was very clear that this guy took some time taking these photos here. So one of the tools that the city uses is a GPS, because they've had a problem in the past with inspectors from code and also from the building inspection department signing off on inspections without going to the location to physically be there. So I know that this inspector has a GPS on his vehicle, so I want to match up to ensure that he is here on the date that he stated he was during the times that he was. Let's take a quick look at some of the photos. These are the case photos for case number 044672 for 1101 East 5th Street. You'll notice that Deric Knox is the code officer. He stated that this was printed up on Monday, April 27th. Again, he's not even assigned the case yet. His photos were taken on April 24th, 2015. This first photo is at 11:13. Now he is on 5th Street taking these. He's not taking pictures of the lots as I described. He's taking pictures of a bunch of buildings on 5th Street, not the area that I turned in. So he selectively chose an area, took a bunch of photos, misdirection, and said, nothing wrong here. 11:13 to 11:17. So in the course of 4 minutes, he takes these photos. So, again, he drove around the corner. This is case 044470 at 1000 East 4th Street. Again, Officer Deric Knox. 4/24/15, Friday, April 24th, 15. So he's taking a series of photos now, but these are the ones where he's taking mostly of the iron yard. His back is to the area turned in. Now, this is the area that I turned in here, and you can see that it has been cut. And there's a bunch of standing water here. But he's taking the majority of these photos are of the salvage yard and not of the area that I turned in. Had he walked this area over here, he might have seen some of the trash and debris. I know it's there because I came in after the fact and the trash was still there. I've got a series of photos and other people that went with me. Let's look at the next one. So here we are again. This is the third one for Deric Knox this morning. It starts at 11:37. Here's the interstate. There's his 4th Street. He's taking a picture of a building. What I turned in is behind him. This is 800 East 4th Street, and it is acceptable to take reference shots around the area, but let's look and see what he took photos of. He's taking pictures of all the buildings on the south side of the street. Now, this is the area here. You can see that it's been mowed since I was there initially. I don't know about this date. This is the date in question. This is the digital camera, and at any point he can reset the date and the time on his camera. So he takes some pictures along the track. He takes a bunch of pictures around the interstate. Here's the only decent shot he has of the area that was concerned. Now, it's been mowed, it's clearly, but was it on this date? When was this picture taken? Along the track and some other areas here. So I have him here and taking photos. Now I need to figure out, was he here on that date? This is how we do that. You do an open records request for the vehicles, for the stop log report for his vehicle. Now his vehicle is on the side of his truck. It's 14B183. The date is 4/24. So this tells you all the stops that this inspector made during the day. Now keep in mind, the photos are all time stamped. They're on this date and they start at 11:13 a.m. and go to 11:47, thereabouts. And so we want to know where this guy is during this time frame. Now again, if anybody has a GPS, you know that it'll get you close, but maybe not exactly at the location. And it actually has a disclaimer here. Looking at the report where he is during that time frame, he is stopped at 8:15 in the morning, 8:53 to 11:57. He spent 221 minutes at 107 Mildred Street. 221 minutes during the time frame. Now he states, his photos state that he was there between 11:13 and 11:47 when he visited those 3 lots, but yet his car is parked at 107 Mildred Street according to this. And so this raises a big flag. An inspector who is taking photos of a case that he's not assigned to, and he's not there during the time that his camera states he is. So the big question is, what's at 107 Mildred Street? Let's take a look at that. All right, this is where the inspector, Deric Knox, states he was, or his photographs says that on the 24th he was here taking these series of shots. And again, his series of shots are these up in here, these down here, and this group over here. The green shots are a different inspector, and his logs and his photos match up, not Mr. Knox. So where's 107 Mildred Street, and why was he there for 221 minutes? Not far away, 107 Mildred Street is right here. Now, when you adjust here, you want to see what is over here at 107 Mildred Street. There's nothing here. This is a mile away from where he's supposed to be, except 1 in a million. This is a restaurant, a very popular restaurant. So why is there a conflict between what the inspector's photographs say, what his case log says, but yet what his car says? So we asked for an investigation, because we're concerned that this guy is tampering with his case logs. So we turned it in to the city, and they ignore me, and they ignore me, and they ignore me. Finally, I went to city council, and somebody decides that they're going to conduct an investigation. And that would be Mr. Robert Alvarado. So I did an open records request for a copy of this investigation and all the documents pertaining to it. And what I got was a thread of emails back and forth between the people in the code department, and they're all confused. They have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. And out of all of this, I figure out that it was sent to Robert Alvarado, who is an assistant division manager for the East District, the City of Austin Code Department. And Robert Alvarado is replying to Leah Warner, who is the open records person for that division, about my formal complaint for the code department to request to investigate. And this is his response. In regards to Officer Deric Knox and the AVL, which is the GPS system on April 24th, between the hours of 8:15 and 11:57. After conducting an internal investigation, Officer Deric Knox's vehicle was not parked at the location as indicated, 107 Mildred, on the AVL printout submitted. Between the hours of 8:55 and 11:55, Mr. Alvarado states that Officer Knox's truck was parked at 15 Waller, which is the RBJ building, which is a city-owned building. The AVL system shows his vehicle parked on Nash Hernandez Street, adjacent to the office building. Now, wait a minute. I just showed you, and we're going to look at this again. Mr. Alvarado is stating that he wasn't parked here, that he was actually at a city building between 8:55 and 11:55. He also states that Compass Track 50 has a program called Breadcrumbs, and it shows his vehicle moving throughout his area during the times and not parked as indicated on the AVL stop and start list. We have three statements here. One, he clearly understands what I'm asking. Where's his car during the right time frame on the right day? Here he states, no, he wasn't over at 107 Mildred Street. He's at the RBJ building. And then Compass Track 50, the program called Breadcrumbs, shows his vehicle moving throughout his area during the times and not parked as indicated here. So which is it? Is he at 107? Is he at Waller Building, or is he moving about his thing? So we did another open records request for the Breadcrumbs program, and we wanted to compare to see what's going on. Why is is it a malfunction? Am I mistaken? So let's take a look at the GPS stop log side by side. All right, here is the GPS record that we looked at just a few minutes ago. This is what they refer to as the AVL report. And again, it clearly shows that on the 24th between 8:15 and 11:57, that Officer Deric Knox, Inspector Deric Knox, was at this address at 107 Mildred Street. Now here on the side is check marks where I've compared this to the other program. One thing to note, this program starts at 6:47:33 a.m. The other program starts at 5:49:33 a.m. They're an hour off. They're exactly an hour off, just a few minutes. But again, it's the 24th, the same vehicle, and this one shows, the Breadcrumbs one shows that he started off at Decker Lane at about 5:49, and then at 5:50 he made a stop. And this is start and stops. And every time you take off and then you stop at a location, this tracks your location, but not every stop at every light. So that's the fault. That's a fault in this thing. So Decker Lane. Let's look at Decker Lane, and you can see that on this one, yes, Decker Lane. So 6:47. Okay, here's the Breadcrumbs program that I received in a second PIR, public information request. It does show that both logs start off, both programs start off Decker Lane, although they're an hour apart. The other one starts off at 6:47. This one picks up at 5:49. I don't know if it's accounting for daylight savings time on April 24th or thereabouts, but they are exactly an hour off. What's important here is that Robert Alvarado stated that during the time frame that Inspector Knox was actually at Nash Hernandez Street, okay? And so while there is a listing, and again, let's add an hour to this one and call it 8:15 in the morning to set off for the time difference. He's only at Nash Hernandez from 8:15 to 8:55. What's missing is the time between 8:55 and 11 o'clock. This is gone. This isn't here. I don't know if there's a way that they can block that out or this program just didn't pick it up. So this is an important thing. Let's go back to Robert's statement. Robert's statement says, after conducting an initial investigation, his vehicle was not parked at the location, which is 1 in a million, between the hours of 8:55 and 11:55. He said his truck was parked at 15 Waller Street. The AVL system shows his vehicle parked on Nash Hernandez Street, adjacent to the office building. While that statement is true, he wasn't there from 8:55 to 11:55. Going back to the list, he was there at 8:15 to 8:55, again allowing for that hour. It's the only time he was at Nash Hernandez Street. Then the rest of the time is missing here. Conveniently, it is gone. He cannot account for Inspector Knox's time between 8:55 and 11 o'clock here. It's just not here. Let's go back to the other one. And again, this one you have to rotate and go down to Deric Knox. It actually shows him here, but his next stop is at 12 o'clock to 12:01 at 1002 East 4th Street. Now, this is the area that he said he was at, and he was there on that day for 2 minutes. This log has him there for 2 minutes. And this log, again, allowing for an hour from 12 to 12:01:49. He's at the 900 block to 998 East 4th Street. Okay, so let me plot both of these addresses on Google Earth and show you where he was for about 1 to 2 minutes on this date. And again, he's there about noontime, but yet his photos state that he was there from 11:13 to 11:47. One of the GPS tracker systems has him parked here, the other one has him parked here. This is well within the area that he supposedly was photographing, but for only 1 to 2 minutes. He wasn't here, as his photos indicated, for well over half an hour snapping photographs. So we do have a problem. Both GPS things provided by the city shows him only here for a minute and not anyplace else. So let's talk about the accuracy of the GPS system. Did a series of photos, and all throughout the day, this is both GPS systems had him starting off here. If you compare them side by side, my green check marks, his first stop is here. Now, supposedly he's parked over here on Nash Hernandez Street, but again, for just a short period of time. This is the RBJ building over here. This is where Robert Alvarado would have you believe that he was actually parked over here, but yet his second stop on the AVL list has him at 2125 East Cesar Chavez. So there's a big difference. That's a huge margin of error for these computer programs. Then one of them has him over here at Mildred Street. His next stop, we see this is close together. Now, the AVL system has him over here at Waller Street for just a few minutes. But again, this could just be a delayed traffic stop. Later on in the day, both systems have him here, basically the same time. Again, accounting for that hour. This is Ed Bluestein. This is Martin Luther King Boulevard. If you're familiar with the area, this is a shopping center that burned out and was being rebuilt. So evidently he has been here doing an investigation. The other one just plots him in the middle of the street. Again, the difference between times here, this is the location. One plots him at the closest intersection. The other one plots him here at a mini mart. This might have been a lunch stop. One of them has him here at this address here. The other one was missing time. One plots him here and the other one plots him over here on Haven Hill Road. Again, no address on Haven Hill Road. As you get further out of the city, out toward the country, it could be that some of these are using cell phone towers, or GPS reception is just bad that time of the day. But you can clearly see that in most cases, the stops are relatively close together, that the two programs are consistent, but yet Mr. Alvarado will tell you that this employee was parked. He said between the hours of 8:55 and 11:55, his truck was parked at 15 Waller, the RBJ building. He's very clear about that, but yet he cannot account for that time. Robert Alvarado, who was asked to investigate, lied to protect his employee and then just closed the investigation. So let's go back to where we started, to the case log, and summarize this. Austin's business partner was turned in for code violations. I can back it up with photographs. Now, did they get in there and clean it up in between the two times? Most likely. Could have been between April and May that Troy Collins called him up and said, hey, listen, we've got a problem. You need to go clean your lot. But here's the problem, is not only was the complaint not fully followed up on this, but it's the timeline. Collins gets it on the 17th and transfers it on May 15th. But yet Deric Knox is investigating in April a case that he's not even assigned to. He won't be assigned to this for almost another 3 weeks. And he's out there taking photos, but yet his GPS logs and his photos don't match up. Is it very possible that these guys drove by this location, waited for it to get cleaned up, and then set the dates on their cameras to reflect a date that is off that says, nope, there's nothing wrong here. This business owner is not in violation of the code, and just close the case to protect Capital Metro from having to comply with the city's codes? Absolutely. Can Deric Knox account for his time during that day? No, he can't. Can they provide me any photos, any case logs where he's someplace else? No. I asked for an investigation, they pencil whipped it, and they assured the city management that everything is fine. This is an ongoing problem inside of the code department. There's no checks and balances. They look after each other, and people falsify documents all the time, and nothing happens. So why is this important? It's important because people like Troy Collins and Deric Knox, as part of their job, go into the courts and testify against homeowners and businesses. If they're lying here, they're lying someplace else. Because the city of Austin, Robert Alvarado, Carl Smart, and yes, it even goes up to the city manager, keeps on glassing over these things, refuses to look at it and to fix it. Let's do this. Let's attack the credibility department-wide. Let's start looking at cases and developing a list of the rotten inspectors and putting together evidence and then posting it on the internet so defense attorneys, if they're ever dealing with a Deric Knox or a Troy Collins or Robert Alvarado, or some of the other ones, and again, they're not all bad, but there are rotten apples, then they can have these things aside and they can attack that investigator's credibility. And if we can demonstrate that they've tampered with government records, falsified their case logs, then these employees are useless to the city. They'll be sent to the curb, and perhaps they can go get jobs as meter maids or something like that. But they will not be screwing with people and lying when it comes to code compliance.